Hello guys. Welcome to my channel, Jura Tempest Federation. In our previous episode, we have seen dungeon opening. If you have not watched the previous episode, I will put a link in the description below. To quick warning, this video contains spoilers from a light novel. But before we proceed further, please like, subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell for further updates. In this video, we will see about dungeon challengers. Now without further delay, let's proceed further. This Demon Lord's Labyrinth probably ain't real, we'll show you. And that over-exaggerated martial tournament as well, all those matches must have been pre-planned. You think you can trick us into bowing down to you? I won't stand for that. That's right. Basananiki has a point. If the street wasn't as crowded then, Basananiki would have definitely won the tournament. Haha, did you forget about me? Don't say that, Gomez. These people know you're strong as well. With us working together, our team Heavy Thunder is invincible. I was wondering who came fourth. They were challengers. It seemed that this man called Basan missed the tournament because he arrived late. But in reality, he could probably tell the contestants' abilities just by watching the matches, although the quality of each match greatly differed, given that some contestants forfeited. There were probably more people like Basan who thought they were the strongest. But honestly, that was fine. There were always people who just couldn't accept reality. These people would be our future customers. Chosen hero Masayuki wasn't that big a deal after all. I recognize his strength, but he wasn't man enough to finish his opponent, and gave the demon lord of this nation some time to think over. How incredibly naive. He makes me sick. Technically, he did recognize Masayuki's strength. This whole labyrinth is just a joke. Basan and I will show you what really lies beneath. Basan and his party guffawed arrogantly. How dare you offend Rimuru-sama like that, unforgivable. Allow me to go silence them. Stop it. How very careless of me. Xian was already pissed off. Diablo, on the other hand, was on the brink of losing control. I stopped them immediately, though it was already worth celebrating that they didn't mention anything about killing these people. They're just overconfident. These kinds of people will make things more fun. Although I felt that they were pretty moronic myself, we just needed them for a little longer. Hearing this, both Xian and Diablo accepted. I was getting better at dealing with them. The bald warrior Basan. The black cloak mage Gomez. Plus another 4 goons. I decided to let these 6 be the first batch of challengers. What followed was a group of unexpected characters. A trio jumped out and shouted, "We want to challenge it as well." Where have I seen them before? Was that Elan's party? I thought those 3 were helping Yaum rebuild his country. I told them to report to the Freedom Association at the old farmhouse and help out Yaum. B-ranked adventurers already possess quite a lot of authority, and Elan's party had, in fact, leveled up to rank B+. They were authorized to take on missions, regardless of borders. They hadn't come along with Yaum, so I thought they must have gone back to their hometown. I didn't expect them to have planned such things. It must have been done in secret, fearing an objection from ＤISCLAIMER. Are we seriously gonna do it? Of course we are. We haven't done much adventuring lately, this is our chance. Speaking of it, do I, the captain, get to decide anything at all? Of course not, it's already settled. How reckless. Porkaball. I could just about hear DISCLAIMER screaming from the next room, followed by a thump sound, before everything fell silent again. It wasn't hard to imagine what happened there, but I won't. I hope Elan and her friends could exit the scene before Elalud threw another tantrum. The third to enter was our Masayuki-kun. He walked onto the stage casually, and smiled towards the audience. Masayuki. Masayuki, there was a wave of cheers. Enough already, we get it. He's popular. Counting Masayuki, his squad had 4 people in total. Jinrai had switched out of his shoddy armor into the set I gifted him. It was a magical silver armor, that covered his whole body, crafted by Garm. It was high-end rare armor. While it was heavier than the skeleton full-body armor Yaum wore, it had lower quality and durability. However, it was fancy enough to have a poison gas purification effect. I also gifted Masayuki a rapier. When I asked him why he never drew his sword, Masayuki casually explained, because it was too heavy. Even I got scared for him, hearing that. Was he seriously all talk no walk? Apparently, he had practiced kendo before, but a real sword was always much heavier. Especially in this world, sword fighting trends were unlike the slashes of a katana. Instead, the mainstream use of swords was to execute heavy chops. Thus there needed to be some weight to the swords. It was already very tiring for Masayuki, to hold the sword in a fixed position for a long time. I told him to at least practice a little bit, so I handed him a relatively light rapier. It was a failed recreation, when I was preparing a gift for Hinata. Its weight and tenacity were almost as good as the original rapier, however, it was unsuccessful in recreating the special ability of killing the opponent in the 7th attack. It was already difficult for him to lift this sword, so even if it didn't have any high-end skills, it would be fine. The sword did, however, have the ability to reduce fatigue. Masayuki only needed to swing it around for show. That rapier was more than sufficient. Speaking of which, no one else noticed that they changed their gear, and instead all 4 were just showered in applause. The time limit was 3 hours. From my calculations, they could, at most, make it to the 5th level. Masayuki's party also had maps, so they had an edge over the other teams. They had all the support needed to help advertise. Finally, we had 3 teams. Although I felt that this number was small in size, considering that the task was to investigate a suspicious labyrinth of the Demon Lord, a lot of people were probably hesitating. We'd have to rely on today's promotional event to get rid of their unease. Then, it was about time. Hold on, I'm participating too. As these words were spoken, a man in black appeared on this stage. It was Kai the Splendacious Sword Fighter. You made me fall for your tricks with your boring feints and shameful schemes. Fufufu, that's all you're capable of as a Demon Lord's lackey and one of those despicable 4 heavenly kings. I know you are afraid of my true power, how very naive of you to try and trick me. No matter what kind of conspiracy you have, I'll crush it. I was just wondering why he came. How perfectly timed. It seemed that he was unable to accept the fact that he was knocked out by Ranga, and thought he'd fallen into some sort of trap. He probably also thought that I had some ulterior motive for opening the labyrinth, and had come out to stop me. I did have some other intention, but not what he thought. This time allow me to give him a thorough. Go ahead, Diablo. To do what? Also, Xian, stop trying to imitate my tone, I huffed. These two, seriously, why were they acting like this? They seriously didn't hold back against people who spoke negatively about me. Xian's tricks had been piling on at this point. I really needed to start figuring out some countermeasures. Anyhow, that aside, Kai had actually chosen to go solo apparently. Was that okay? There was no use for me to worry anyway. From another point of view, I could also make him an example for people wanting to go into the labyrinth alone. And so, Kai was our 4th challenger. With the challengers gathered on schedule, it was time to get started. The highly anticipated dungeon had finally opened. We didn't have a lot of time, so we would stream the labyrinth walkthrough with multiple parties advancing at the same time. Sauka would stay back and broadcast the live stream with feeds of different teams. The Dryads were perfect for the role of receptionist inside the labyrinth. They would also serve as the magic communicators, camera crew, moving with each team. Apart from trainees sisters Trya and Triss, there were also other Dryads, albeit few in number. They were still young and inexperienced in battle. However, they still possessed highly abundant mana. Now, with Ramrus in charge, they were the best candidates to manage the labyrinth. Then, these 4 will be the managers of the labyrinth. Normally you won't be assigned with any challengers, however, you will need to relay information about everyone's walkthrough progress, so every team will be assigned with one as follower. Sauka read out their names as they began to greet everyone. There were Alpha, Beta, Gamma, and Delta. It was inconvenient for them not to have names, so I named them randomly. That being said, it didn't consume any of my magicules. Since Dryads were higher monsters, they only consumed their own magicules. These people were Ramrus's subordinates after all, I only needed to help name them. By the way, these sisters looked quite similar to each other, it was hard to differentiate them by eyesight alone. Monsters, surprisingly enough, use the wavelength of their mana to differentiate individuals, which was difficult for humans. Partly due to this reason, I had to name them, in order to make it easier to recognize them. If you run into any difficulty, just ask them for help. Now we are going to talk about rules. First of all, here is something for everyone. Sauka held up a few items, to demonstrate to everyone as Alpha distributed the same things to each person. These are the items that will be sold when people enter the labyrinth. Has everyone got their items? Followed by Sauka's words, each item was shown and enlarged on the screen. In times like this, having a projector was also particularly convenient. The items shown were 10 high-grade healing potions, 1 full healing potion, a revival bracelet and a return whistle. Since we wanted everyone to have a taste, we of course had to give them out for free. We were asking them to help us test out the labyrinth, so they could even take these items back with them as rewards. Just in case, we also equipped the Dryads with the same items. If there was a problem, they could get back as soon as possible. Given the sheer size of the labyrinth floors, it was unlikely for them to make it out of the first level. Even if they got to the stairs without getting lost, it was still over 2 kilometers walk in terms of distance. Since we made the floor into a maze, it would take even more time to complete. That's it for today, guys. See you next one. For further more update, please like, share and subscribe. And do not forget to push notification bell.